Coming up, Larry King Live, followed by Evening News here.
This is CNN.
Welcome to Larry King Live. Tonight, his daredevil scheme freed hostages in Iran. Now, billionaire businessman H. Ross Perot takes on the president over America's policy in the Persian Gulf. Now, from Los Angeles, here's Larry King.
We are still here in the city of Los Angeles. This is Ace Awards weekend, the non-televised version tonight. On Sunday night, by the way, on 8 cable networks, the Ace Awards will be aired. And there are many CNN shows nominated, and we hope you watch. Couple of program notes. Tomorrow night, it's the Capital Gang. That's at 7 Eastern. It's the best Ace Award winning, by the way, discussion show on television. And they really go at it. That's tomorrow night, 7 Eastern. They repeat it at 11 Eastern. And a special program tomorrow night, right in this time slot at 9 Eastern, a CNN special report with Bob Beckel. He will host a special on the press and the coverage of the Persian Gulf. That's tomorrow night, 9 Eastern. When we're back Monday night, Senator Bob Kerrey, Democrat, Nebraska, will be our special guest, the former governor and Vietnam veteran. Senator Kerrey, Monday night. Tuesday night, which I guess they're now calling D-Day, it is the 15th, Ambassador Al Mashat, the Iraqi ambassador to the United States, will be our guest. He is a proud graduate of West Point's Naval Academy. H. Ross Perot is a patriot. In 1979, he implemented the daredevil rescue of his own employees caught in Iran. And now he is hopping mad over President Bush's president course in the Gulf. He has had a long, close relationship with the military. He funded the design for the Vietnam Memorial. Perot wants to be sure that we learn from that war is a mistake. He joins me here in Los Angeles. He joins a growing number of people speaking out against the war. Where were all of you back in August?
I was speaking.
Against?
Yes.
Not many were.
I've been speaking ever since August. Spoke at the press club December the 6th. Talked to over 15,000 people in live audiences since the war started.
And before we went on tonight, you were even lobbying Congress people. So let's go back and tell us when Iraq went into Kuwait, what did you think, and what did you think our response should have been? August 2nd.
Well, my first reaction was that before we commit our fighting forces to battle, we must commit our nation. So the lesson of Vietnam is first commit the nation, then commit the troops. I am not at odds with anybody. I am deeply concerned that we never send our fighting forces into battle until the American people understand and are fully committed.
But they were fully committed on August 3rd, August 4th, weren't there? It was hard to find anyone against.
But they didn't understand it. When you would talk to people, for example, in these audiences I've talked to, typically they're very excited about having this take place. But as you listen to them, they think of it as a movie or another Super Bowl or a contest, and they don't relate it to dying. And they don't relate it to really the horror of war. I would ask these people, how many of you have an immediate family member in the Middle East? Only 8 people in my audience of a total of 15,000 had an immediate family member. Then I said, well, can you agree that it's the people who work for you, whose sons and daughters are there? And they did. I said, well, since you believe so strongly in this, how many of you would send your son and daughter to fight and die for this? Nobody. Then I suggested that we should all make a series of daily sacrifices since we have our great fighting forces in the desert. They agreed with that philosophically. I then suggested a war tax. I haven't found anybody yet that will support that.
In other words, you're saying this is a case of you go.
This is intense, shallow enthusiasm. Last week's Washington poll, 60-some-odd% said, let's go do it. Then they said, but what, to the same people, but what if there are 1,000 casualties? Then it dropped down in the 50s. Then they said, but what if there are 10,000 casualties? And it actually reversed. 60-some-odd% were against it.
But we've sold the whole world, Ross. I don't think there's ever been a time in history when the whole world has spoken out in favor of action against one country. How do you explain that?
Now, I am not defending, excuse me, I am not defending Hussein, and I am not defending Iraq. But let's look at why all this happened. We have a history and a pattern of finding bad boys around the world, Noriega in Central America, Hussein in the Middle East, to do our dirty work. When he declared war on Iran, he became our bad boy in the Middle East. We gave him anything he wanted. 1981, he had nuclear capability.
Well, President Reagan here last night said we did that because Khomeini was a lot worse than he was, and it was the lesser of two evils.
Okay, fine, but don't ever forget what Churchill said, never cozy up to tyrants. We haven't learned yet. We've just cozied up to Assad of Syria. They had the nuclear capability in 81, Israel took it out. Saudi Arabia agreed to rebuild it. That seems odd in today's context. And Vice President George Bush deplored Israel having taken out their nuclear capability. Go up to 84. They gassed their own people with their newly acquired chemical warfare capability, and our reaction to that was to grant them full diplomatic status right after the 1984 presidential election. Now you can just track it right on up, but let's come down to July 25th, 1990. Ambassador Glaspie goes in to see Hussein with written instructions from the Secretary of State approved by the President of the United States. You will not become involved in your border dispute with Kuwait, and we take no position on this dispute. In plain talk, they're saying you can take the northern part of the country and you can take the islands, we won't do anything. How sure? Let's go down to, as they were clicking down to war and everybody was saying this is going to happen, they've turned the radar on, they've got 100,000 troops massed at the border. State Department was so comfortable with this that they didn't even tell the visitors, the U.S. visitors in Kuwait, that they should leave the country. Then he took the whole country and the rest is history.
If all that is true, we met with them, we told them it's okay, we winked, we didn't tell our people to get out, why did we move so massively against them?
Well,
if that's true, why didn't we just say, okay, hey, he's got a point, we'll debate this in the UN, we condemn it openly, but we don't send it. Why did we do that?
Well,
if what you say is right, the rest don't make sense.
I look for patterns. We decided after years of putting up with all of Noriega's idiosyncrasies, including dealing drugs into our country, that we had to take him out. And exactly a year ago, we did, just about this time.
That's right.
Now we have a new bad boy in the Middle East out of control.
But are you saying in one day George Bush looked up and decided this is wrong, I'm going, I liked him yesterday?
You'll have to ask him why that precipitous move. But once you committed those troops, then that's when I mentally and emotionally got involved. You have to commit the nation.
Why isn't your anger at Hussein, who went into Kuwait, instead of at us, who may have made some mistakes along? We didn't go into Kuwait.
Oh, I am very angry at Hussein. But I also feel that it's very important that the country belongs to the people. The elected officials are the servants of the people. And I think it is fundamentally important that the people understand all the nuances of this situation and that we not reduce it mindlessly to Super Bowl II that's going to occur on January the 15th. Then on January the 16th, when we see our people dying and their people dying, we react in horror, we withdraw all support from our military forces and leave them hanging out there like we did in Vietnam. Now that's what drives me. First commit the nation, then commit the troops.
We'll find out if Mr. Perot thinks there is a solution. The Texas billionaire and philanthropist, what a life he's had. We'll be including your phone calls. By the way, if you wish to call Ross Perot, you call us through Los Angeles, 213-469-5533. This is Larry King Live. Senator Bob Kerrey of Nebraska on Monday. Don't go away.
If it should choose to continue its brutal occupation of Kuwait, Iraq will be choosing a military confrontation which it cannot win.
If they decide to attack Iraq, we will not be surprised.
The choice of peace or war is really Saddam Hussein's to make.
Watch it here and understand it here. Watch it here and understand it here. Ever get the feeling the world is moving too fast? How can you keep up with all that's happening? New discoveries, new technologies, new ideas, an explosion of knowledge changing the way you'll live and conduct business in the 1990s. How can you keep up? Stay informed, understand. For more than 2 million readers, the answer is Scientific American, the world's foremost science magazine. And now a trial issue can be yours free without obligation. Scientific American is fascinating, informative, always new and exciting, filled with dozens of colorful photographs, drawings, and diagrams to make complex subjects clear. Call now for your free trial copy, then decide. Accept a one-year subscription, 11 more issues, 12 in all, for just $19.97. Or cancel, owe nothing, and keep your trial issue. But if you do subscribe, you'll get 2 special gifts. This parchment replica of Scientific American's first issue dated 1845, and this impressive collection of articles by Nobel Prize-winning scientists, including Albert Einstein. Remember, the 1845 issue and the Nobel Prize winners collection are both free when you subscribe. Call for your free issue without obligation.
The number is 1-800-822-9800. That's 1-800-822-9800.
Next week on Showbiz Today, how does Hollywood portray the Middle East? And cable television's best are honored at the ACE Awards. Plus, make room for Danny Thomas. That's all on Showbiz Today, 5:30 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
Just had a cufflink break, folks, and Mr. Perot. You don't get many billionaire philanthropists to help you get it. Want to get it through?
Oh, you need to get it clear off?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Just keep asking me questions.
Just hang on.
I'll get it off.
You got a solution?
There we are.
There we go. You got a solution to this? Is there a solution to this without war?
Well, Churchill said that talk and negotiations is always better than war. We have done nothing but threaten and bluster, much of it in the first person, since August the 2nd. I suggest very strongly, before we commit lives on the battlefield, that we look for a diplomatic solution. I suggest strongly that if we have a military victory, we will have destabilized, not stabilized the Middle East, and we will have made Assad of Syria, who killed our Marines in Lebanon and blew up Pan Am 103 and killed 10,000 of his own people in the town of Hama, not exactly a choir boy, will be the new strong man in the Middle East, and we'll have to go back a year or two and take him out. So let's not fight and destabilize. That's step one.
We sat down and spoke to him, Assad.
Right.
Why isn't the American public, since if what you say is true, up in arms over that?
Because the American public has been propagandized since August the 2nd. Press has stood in a line like good soldiers and basically let the president's publicity apparatus carry the day. The press has not questioned the president's actions, so on and so forth, like it normally does. I believe the press wanted to be very supportive, and that's probably constructive. But all of these things that are going to come out, for example, we were fighting for the American way of life. The Amir is not the American way of life. He's got 70 wives, 7 personal 747s. Half the oil that comes out of the ground goes in his pocket. I work second shift, live in a little house in the Midwest. The apple of my eye is over there. Do you think I want to lose my son for this guy? No. Now, let's get serious about why we're there. We're there because of oil. We want the oil to flow. The Japanese are laughing at us. They know the oil will flow if the devil controls the oil. The only reason oil prices are up is because we're there. See, there are all these dichotomies that nobody raises. We created a cartel that raised the oil price, and then we say, look, the oil price is up. Yeah, we did it. Now, they have oil, camel.
Also, he went in and took a country.
That's right, and we only want him to take part of it. Now, isn't that a Boy Scout approach? Aren't you real proud of the fact that we said you can take part of it, then he took it all and we got upset at him?
And we don't move against everybody who goes into places.
Well, let's just take, for example, Russia sent 10,000 troops into Lithuania this week. China put the people in Tiananmen Square. If you're against rape, murder, plunder, and pillage, really, and it's not just PR and sound bites, I suggest very strongly we start in New York, go to Washington, D.C., the murder capital of the world, head for Detroit, Philadelphia, and work your way across this country, and eventually we'll hit the Middle East. We've got rape, murder, plunder, and pillage big time in this country. We had it in Tiananmen Square, and all we did was cozy up to them the minute it was over.
You know George Bush pretty well, don't you?
I can't say I know him pretty well. I've known him over a period of years, yes.
Been in his company?
He's a good man, yes.
He's a good man. Is he fooling us? Is he wrong? Is this diabolic?
I'm not in a position to know, and I would not want to conjecture. And you would probably need a team of psychiatrists to get an answer to your question.
Psychiatrists?
So I say, and then they might be wrong. But I would say,
Time said he's two men. Do you think so?
I don't know. I don't want to personalize this in any way. My only concern is if I think I can prove to any rational person that if we fight, we will destabilize the Middle East. I know that in a Senate session, the senior people in our government, the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense, were asked, all right, we win. What's our plan to stabilize it? They didn't have one. That sounds like Panama. We didn't stabilize anything.
Have you talked to the president?
No.
Have you tried to?
I don't.
He's not a difficult access guy.
No, and I don't.
I think he would take a call from H. Ross Perot.
Well, if he wants to talk to me, I'll be glad to talk to him.
But you won't call him?
I don't want to say who I've talked to and who I haven't talked to in our government, Larry, and I don't want to be rude, but I'd just rather not discuss it.
Your side going to lose the vote tomorrow?
Well, it all depends on what the vote is. See, let's assume if the vote is to go to war, and if we go to war, then...
Well, allow to go to war.
All right.
It won't be to go to war, it'll be permission to go to war.
I consider this real progress that Congress is involved, that Congress is making the decision. That's in accordance with the Constitution. If any person listening wonders what the framers of the Constitution intended, read the Federalist Papers. It's black and white. Only Congress can do this. That is real progress. That means the people are speaking. And if that's the decision, then I hope that the people in the executive branch will proceed with great caution, give diplomacy a chance, and recognize that in the roughly 7,000 years of recorded history in the Middle East, nobody ever stabilized the Middle East, and probably a few guys out of Washington won't be able to pull it off either. Best you can hope for is reasonable stability, and we must protect Israel.
That you go for?
Absolutely.
Do you believe the foreign minister of Iraq when he says if we attack, they'll attack Israel?
Yes.
Same answer he gave, yes.
Because that's shrewd. That's shrewd on his part.
Shrewd to say it or believe he'd do it?
No, it's shrewd to do it because that will unite the Arab world in a way that nothing else might.
We'll be back. We'll include your phone calls for H. Ross Perot. This is Larry King Live in Washington. Ambassador Al Mashat will be here on Tuesday. That's the 15th. Don't go away.
I implore you to think of what it's going to be like to face up not to the phone calls of support that you received today, but to face up to the tears of the mothers and fathers of the children that are in the Middle East today, to face up to the tears that will exist when their sons and daughters start coming home in body bags.
I was afraid to go to the doctor. I didn't want to hear that I might have an ulcer, but I just couldn't ignore my stomach. You can imagine how relieved I was when my doctor said Mylanta. He told me it wasn't an ulcer. It was indigestion. And indigestion like mine needed a strong medicine.
Mylanta is strong medicine, strongly recommended. In fact, Mylanta is the antacid doctors recommend most.
My doctor said Mylanta.
A TNT exclusive premiere, Perestroika, through the eyes of a Soviet reporter. Experience the hopes and fears of a nation. A taste of freedom. Saturday at 5 Eastern.
Don't forget, tomorrow night in this time period at 9 Eastern, Bob Beckel will host a special on the presses dealing with the Persian Gulf, and your phone calls will be included. That's tomorrow night at 9 Eastern. We're going to go to your phone calls, include them throughout with our questioning of H. Ross Perot. We go to Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Hello.
Listen, Larry, I just feel that Mr. Perot is generally underestimating the American people's information concerning the issue. He thinks that the American people feel it's a football game. This is a matter of life and death. And I think, and I believe, that the American people understand fully what's going on here.
As you do. So what is your question then where Mr. Perot is
wrong?
wrong?
No question. I just think it's appalling that he announces. I saw him on Donahue. He did the same thing on Donahue, that he says that we're not informed.
Okay, well, let's handle it a little easier, sir. Ask him a question to show us where he's wrong, so that we know you're informed.
Well, for example, back in June 4th, 1990, U.S. News and World Report did a cover story, "The Most Dangerous Man in the World," on President of Iraq, Saddam Hussein. And that was way before the August invasion. So I think the American people have been informed.
Well, may I comment on that? And I'm delighted that you are fully informed and that many others are, and my only regret is that I run into so many thousands who aren't. But I'm pleased you are. But let's say in June, that was on the cover story. Also in June, Congress tried to impose sanctions so that we stopped shipping devices to make chemical, nuclear, and bacteriological weapons. And guess who overrode Congress? And also in June, Congress wanted to stop giving him money. White House and State Department overrode it and wanted to keep the money flowing, the loans. Guess who insures that money? The U.S. taxpayers. U.S. taxpayers will have to pay over $2 billion that we gave our bad boy in the Middle East, Saddam Hussein, and we were doing it all through June.
You have a comment, sir?
And we have helped possibly his armament. But I still feel that I think that you're underestimating the American people. I think we do understand, and that we are committed behind the president and what he does.
The main thing is to stay committed behind the troops if and when this fighting starts, and don't faint the first time you see the horror of war like everybody did at Vietnam.
Atlanta, hello.
Yes, you've made this a very personal campaign, and I'm interested to know what financial interests you may have in the Middle East.
None.
Direct or indirect?
None. It's not a personal campaign. It's a campaign to make sure that every single American goes in spirit with our fighting men and women, and when we commit our troops, we are all equally committed as a country. Have no financial interest in the Middle East.
I think you grossly underestimate the American people.
All right, do you have a specific question, sir, to show where he's wrong?
No, I just think that he...
Well, wait a second. No. It's unfair to say he underestimates the American people. Show us where he's... In other words, he's saying that he's got some knowledge about this that you don't have, and he's pointed out some instances. So it would be fair when you're calling in to give us a question that would show us where Ross Perot is wrong, since you do have knowledge. Well, so where has he been wrong so far?
I think the best example is in the Congress, where they think that in the Senate, perhaps the vote may be almost a tie. It may be within one vote, and that shows how carefully split the country is.
Well, then he's right.
See, that's
it goes to show that the thing is being discussed and debated as thoroughly as it could possibly debate it.
Do you think, caller, do you think it's a late debate?
Yes.
No, and that's...
Do you think it's late?
Oh, yes. I've been trying to get this debate going for months. I'm thrilled that it's underway. I think it's very important that we, and this goes back to committing the country so that if and when we get into this, we don't abandon our fighting forces like we did in Vietnam.
Do you think... Hardest question of all. Do you think there's going to be a war?
I believe that we have a number of realistic options before we go to war. I hope we'll pursue them, because they will be more likely to stabilize the Middle East and accomplish our strategic objectives than an all-out war would.
San Luis Obispo, California, for H. Ross Perot. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Perot. I saw you on Donahue, and I have to agree that I agree with everything you said. And I was wondering if war is begun, is the draft going to be reinstituted, and what do you think about it?
I believe that if our nation goes to war, and if there's a continuing demand for troops, and that includes the ability to rotate troops, absolutely, everybody should go. In World War II, FDR's son flew 85 missions. That's going to war. That's committing the nation. That's putting everybody's skin in the game, not just the people who happen to be in the all-volunteer army.
So there should be a draft?
Absolutely.
Canton, Ohio, with H. Ross Perot. Hello.
Hi, Mr. Perot. A, can you get involved in financing alternative energy? B, does George Bush still have an interest in his oil company, Zapata Oil? C...
Hold on. Let's start with A.
Number one, I am not involved. I, interestingly enough, had a project a few years ago, tried to get involved, couldn't find any good projects to finance. Number two, I don't know what the status of Zapata Oil is now.
That was his company, though.
Yes, at one time, but I think he sold it years ago.
Yeah,
I don't believe he's
too.
involved.
Question 3.
Should Senator Rockefeller and other senators who profit off the oil industry excuse themselves from this vote tomorrow?
I don't think so. I don't think that this would be a conflict for them. And in that specific case,
Has Senator Rockefeller spoken on this? Has he spoken today? Do we know?
I don't know, but I would have no questions about his integrity to try to do the right thing for the country.
Does his family benefit from this?
See, I don't know their current holdings. We all assume they still own Exxon stock. I don't know if he does or not.
If they do.
Oh, if you have a conflict of interest, maybe the safe thing to do would be not to vote.
Do they benefit?
Sure. If somebody that's involved has a conflict of interest, then the safe thing to do is sit it out.
We'll try to get Senator Rockefeller on. Dallas, hello.
Hello, Ross. I heard you on KVIL today. I was wanting to ask you, you've had a lot of dealings with the Arabs before, and I have a follow-up question, if I may. How do you feel the Arab mind works?
We have a sort of a black and white solution to things. The Arabs deal in 5 or 6 dimensions. We don't understand Arabs. When I negotiate with Arabs, I always assume they're going to outtrade me because they have this approach. I can assure you that the way we've been dealing with Hussein gives him no room at all to do anything, because all we do is threaten him in the first person day after day after day. I suggest we give diplomacy a chance. In the meeting that took place this week, with the foreign minister, there was no room at all for any discussion.
Our guest is H. Ross Perot. We're going to take a break and come back. He's our only guest tonight. We'll be including your phone calls. Bob Beckel will host a special tomorrow night at 9 Eastern dealing with the press and the coverage of the Gulf, and your phone calls will be accepted. The Capital Gang is going to discuss it tomorrow, and we've got Senator Kerry on Monday, and we'll all be right back. Don't go away.
Hello, I'm Charles Crawford at the CNN Center in Atlanta with a brief look at the hour's top stories. Javier Perez de Cuellar is headed for Baghdad to meet today with Saddam Hussein. The UN Secretary General gathered support yesterday for a proposal to send a UN peacekeeping force to the Persian Gulf. That's believed to be one of 5 issues Perez de Cuellar will discuss with Saddam Hussein. All the issues are conditioned on Iraq's withdrawal from Kuwait. Meanwhile, Congress will be voting on war. The UN deadline for Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait is just 3 days away, and both houses are expected to vote today on whether to give President Bush the authority to launch an attack on Iraq after January the 15th. Diplomats in Baghdad have taken the threat of war seriously. The last American diplomats joined the exodus from the Iraqi capital aboard a chartered flight to Frankfurt. The U.S. Embassy technically remains open and the American flag continues to fly, but there no longer is a U.S. diplomatic presence there. That's a brief look at the news at this hour. I'm Charles Crawford. Now back to Larry King.
Save at the giant truckload sale right now at McDuff. Take advantage of McDuff's great truckload buys on the best brand names in audio, video, and TV. Plus, for 1 week only, every major appliance is on sale at McDuff's guaranteed low prices. Save on a Frigidaire 18 cubic foot frost-free refrigerator, just $388.97. Or an RCA 20-inch remote color TV, only $237.87. So come into McDuff during our truckload sale and save.
Remember, your satisfaction is guaranteed at McDuff.
If you want to pay less for high-octane power, less for an excellent detergent package, less for superb engine performance, all-in-one gasoline, don't stop at Chevron, Shell, or Unocal. Forget about Exxon or BP. You'll find it at Arco. Arco's powerful new Super Unleaded. On average, it's 6 cents a gallon less than other major Super Unleadeds. Arco's low-priced, high-powered Super Unleaded. There's no better gasoline at any price.
This is CNN.
Diplomatic to fly several thousand miles to say, I have been sent by the President of the United States to say to you, and I paraphrase, if you're not out of Kuwait on or about January 15th, we're going to kick your butt. Is that diplomacy?
Our guest is H. Ross Perot. Okay, if that's not diplomacy, how do you negotiate this? You're a negotiator. You're a wheeler-dealer in the highest sense of that term.
Our problem is that, as unthinkable as it would be to us, King Hussein of Jordan had the right idea back in August, and that's the Arab solution. Go back through recorded history, and you'll find that they get together periodically and reshuffle the sand.
All right, so what do we do to create an Arab solution?
We have done a useful thing. We have stopped him where he is. We have put him under great pressure with the sanctions, and his oil can't flow. All that is good, and our country deserves high marks for that. Now, they are just dying to have an Arab solution to this. We're going to have to be very careful to protect Israel. We ought to let UN come in the forefront, because we are the worst people in the world to be there because of our friendship with Israel, to be in the forefront. Let the UN sort of quarterback this thing. Let all the Arabs go in a tent. They will come out embracing one another, swear to be brothers for 1,000,000 years, have a solution that we will never really understand, and 2 years from now be chewing on one another again, but in the meantime the oil will flow.
Do you agree that we should have sent Troop 1?
I could make a good case for a small contingent of troops. For example, we had a relatively small number of Americans in an area called the Gap in Germany. They stood there for 45 years and the Russians never came across. They could have run over them, but they knew the price. We could have put the oil embargo in place with a few ships. So we could have done with a much smaller force than is there. But let's see, I don't like to, we love to do 20/20 hindsight. I suggest as a nation, we just write off every mistake we've made in the Middle East to date. Not have Watergate investigation. Just say, all right, we did it. Now then, what is the practical solution to this problem? But don't, because we are so embarrassed by all the dumb things we've done as a country with this guy, put our fighting men and women's lives on the line and have people die to cover up human errors. Nobody's doing that consciously, but it could happen.
Can de Cuellar do something?
I think de Cuellar can play a key role as quarterback, but in the final analysis, the Arabs will have to get in the tent and come up with an Arab solution, and I think they're dying to do it, including King Fahd of Arabia. We're holding him back.
We're holding him back.
That's my impression.
Malvern, Pennsylvania. Hello.
Yes, first of all, it's an honor to be able to talk to Mr. Perot. I've admired him for some time now, and I have two quick questions. First of all, what plan of action would he suggest to thwart Hussein's fast-approaching nuclear ability? And secondly, he mentioned the American citizens not really being informed. I'm wondering, does he have any comments, or could he tell us a little about what he feels President Bush's private agenda might be in this matter?
First, take the second part first. Do you think he has a private agenda, George Bush?
I don't know. I don't think it's fair to speculate, and I don't want to personalize it. There are too many lives at stake.
Hussein and nuclear.
All right, let's assume that the Arab negotiation fails. What's our next step? Then I suggest we sit down at a table and say, why are we here? We're here because we created a monster and now we don't like him. Well, what are our problems? He's got a nuclear capability. Well, let's look ourselves in the eye and say, we helped him get it. He's got a chemical capability. Well, we helped him get that. He has a bacteriological capability. We helped him get that. All those can be taken. We know how to take that out. We did that in Libya. Didn't check with the UN. Gaddafi became a choir boy overnight. Israel did that once in 1981. That can be done quickly and surgically. You don't even need manned aircraft. Use cruise missiles. It's done. It's over with. It's quick. It's done. The top three are gone. The only thing left is Hussein. We'll have the hardliners then step in and say, we got to take out Hussein. So let's have 430,000 people charge the desert to take out Hussein, which would have to be the most stupid act in human history. I say, wait, who are we going to replace him with? And watch the room go silent. Nobody knows. Let's make sure we got a better guy than Hussein around. We don't have George Washington. We know that. Now then, let's assume you got to take out Hussein. You don't need 430,000 troops to do that. But let's be careful before we do that and make sure we've got somebody better than Hussein around.
But Ross, how did we get the whole world to support us?
We bought and paid for a lot of it.
Did, huh?
Yes, sirree. American taxpayers don't want to know what that Security Council vote cost us. Now, there are all kinds of fun and games. Let's just look at right after the Security Council voted. I think Saudi Arabia sent Russia $1.5 billion. We gave them $1 billion in agricultural aid. That goes on from there. We forgave a $7 billion debt that all of us are going to have to pay to get Egypt to say they were going to participate in the war. That's a huge price to pay when you consider how few soldiers they've got on the line.
But on Wednesday, Egyptian sons could die fighting an Arab nation.
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
Let's assume he attacks Israel. Which way will Egypt go? How would you like to be how would you like to be a member of the 101st Airborne with an Israeli on one, with an Egyptian on one side of you, a Syrian on the other side, and Israel comes into the war? I'd rather be out there by myself. And you would too. See, the point is, these are uncertain allies. This whole business, see, we're still acting like this is the Super Bowl. Who's going to be quarterback? Who's going to be center? We're talking about world-class people that we have in uniform out there for all of us. Don't waste them. When we use them, we need to use them for a noble, worthwhile cause. This is not one.
Are you asking people at this late hour to contact Senate and Congress? Is that one of the moves?
Well, it's very simple, and we tend to forget this. They are our servants. They work for us. Every person in your audience has tonight and tomorrow to either call or send a telegram. We're too late for letters. Let your two senators and your congressman know what you want them to do. Now, that's democracy in action. I could care less whether or not your viewers agree with me. The thing that would really upset me, if every one of them didn't stand somewhere and know why. That's important. Then they're committed, then Congress commits the nation, and then all of us better pray that with all that muscle behind the White House, for the first time they start using diplomacy.
Our guest is H. Ross Perot, the subject of Ken Follett's terrific book On Wings of Eagles. He's a true American patriot. We can't argue the credential, folks, so we better deal with facts. H. Ross Perot's our guest. We'll be back with more phone calls on Larry King Live after this.
There we go. Do you suffer from minor arthritis pain? Boy, I do. I'm Danny Thomas. I just found arthritis hot. I rub it in, it warms away the pain fast, and the relief lasts for hours. Arthritis hot. Sure works for me.
When you have trouble falling asleep, take the sleeping aid ingredient that's the doctor's choice, the one in Sleepinol. In a survey, 7 out of 10 doctors chose the sleeping aid in Sleepinol. Sleepinol contains the doctor's choice to fall asleep fast.
What's the matter?
Oh, it's a bad dream. Someone was chasing me.
Chasing you? That could mean a couple of things.
Oh, my husband, Mr. Freud, is analyzing dreams.
Not analyzing, but my book talks about dreams like yours.
Ben Randall, referring to Mysteries of the Unknown, the Time Life series that sold over 14 million books.
Dreams and dreaming. You, of all people, think dreams mean something?
Well, I may be coming around a little.
Well, what do you think my dream means?
It's right here. A dream that you're being chased could mean a feeling of guilt and a fear of being caught.
Guilt? What else could it mean?
Read the book. Ever had a dream come true?
Never. Who has?
Sarah Allgood. In a dream, a friend said, "Have you found my gift from the grave? Look behind the picture." So Sarah looked, and there it was. Turned out to be worth over $1,000, too.
There what was?
Well, read the book.
Call and order now. Read Dreams and Dreaming free for 10 days. Keep it and pay just $12.99. Other volumes will follow, one about every other month, including Mystic Places, Psychic Powers, and Phantom Encounters. Keep only those books you want. Cancel anytime.
Oh, I don't know if I can get back to sleep now. You know what? Some of that pie, maybe a la mode, might help.
Okay. You get the pie, and I'll read the book.
Tonight, Congress battles war and peace, and in Baghdad, last-ditch diplomacy before the deadline. Congressman Newt Gingrich adds his thoughts to CNN's Capitol Gang, 7 Eastern, tonight.
I believe that the coalition that now exists will crack almost immediately, with each nation trying to strike its own deal with a new Middle East Saladin.
If we unite with the President and the United Nations and other world leaders and send an unequivocally strong message to Saddam Hussein that force can be avoided and this can be resolved by peaceful means. But if we crack, if we blink in the Congress, it gives Saddam Hussein the out he wants.
H. Ross Perot's our guest. To get right back to your calls, a couple of other things and then more calls. Last night, President Reagan here said that this is a UN operation. This is not a United States operation. This is UN. This is not George Bush. We should concentrate on that. Is he wrong?
Well, as a practical matter, it's a U.S. operation. It's UN authorized. We bought and paid for the Security Council vote. But as a practical matter, we're running it. We're the dominant force. We're 5% of the world's population. And I would suggest that it should be a UN operation. I agree with President Reagan, and I agree that we should take the position. We have plugged the gap. We have kept the disaster from happening. The UN should now step in and play a more prominent role. They should have a peacekeeping force there, and we don't have to have our finest over there lined up as a human wall for the world.
Mr. Perot wanted to, he asked me during the break, and I said fine, and then we'll get back to the calls. He wanted to say something to those troops over there, and since this is beamed worldwide, and he is a man of influence, they ought to listen.
I want every one of you to know that I think about you night and day, and I have since you've been over there. All of you that know me, and most of you do, know how I feel about you. And I hope that God will keep you safely in the palm of His hand. I look on each one of you as an absolute perfect pearl that we have sent to defend our country, and every single one of us back here has a moral, ethical obligation to first commit the nation before we commit the troops to battle. Good luck to you. God bless you. You know I love you, and you know how proud I am of you. Thank you.
Pittsburgh, for H. Ross Perot. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Perot. Really respect you and have a quick question regarding diplomacy. You'd referred to that you think diplomacy should be given a chance to work. However, how long can we afford to hold on with the diplomacy since a lot of the financing hasn't come through from some of our coalition partners?
Well, we haven't tried diplomacy yet. All we've tried is threats. If you and I need to negotiate and all I do is threaten you, I don't create an environment for negotiation.
Yeah, but we say we don't negotiate with a bully. You know, we negotiated, Chamberlain negotiated Munich.
Well, this is all sound bites and PR and propaganda. This was our buddy through July, the end of July. This is a man who for 10 years we'd given a blank check to do rape, murder, plunder, and pillage, gas his own people, gas the Iranians, do anything he wanted to. Gave him permission in the last of July to take the top part of Kuwait. So when does our friend become a bully? The Arab world can talk to him if we can't. Now, I would rather talk to John Dillinger than have the neighborhood wiped out. Let's just say, you know, let's assume my choice is I got to go face to face with John. I'll do that before he wipes out the neighborhood, you bet. The point is, let's be serious. We have made so many stupid mistakes around this man. We've got all of these soundbite image control people. I wish we didn't have any in the White House. You know, we got the same guy working with the president that created Don Trump's image. Now, how's that? Only in America. Well, anyhow, he's a guy out of Las Vegas. I wish my president didn't have image makers, but he does. So we create all these myths, pipe them out to the American people, and they believe it if they don't think it through.
But you don't want us to look like appeasers either, do you? You don't want a Neville Chamberlain again, do you? Peace in our time. You don't want someone saying that
see, war is here, appeasement is here. And when you're looking at a high casualty war, and our own government estimates 10, 20, 30, you get up to 45 and 50,000 casualties. And since we created the problem, this guy just didn't come out of the earth. We created him. We gave him his weapons. We gave him his know-how. And now suddenly he has bitten us on the leg, and rather than put all of our lives, just say, all right, let's go sledgehammer him out, and have 20, 30, 40,000 lives wasted, and the American people in gridlock, and 3 years of investigations after that, where we never attend to our country's business, because Congress just spent all the time on Watergate 3. Let's talk about it, and let's let the Arabs talk about it, and trust me, some really interesting solutions will come out, and it'll all settle down.
Do we have estimates on deaths in this? Do we have a printout somewhere?
Every expert has his estimate. You can finally go to, if you can, now I won't say this on the air, but I have talked to the guy who saw the purchase order on the caskets. It's a big number.
He won't tell us how much.
No, I don't want to say, but let me just, these are the things that drive me. I understand death. I understand people so wounded they can never live normal lives. I've spent years of my life with them. I know the children whose fathers were killed. I know the widows who get up every day and go forward, and the saddest people to know are the fathers. They never get over it. Now, if you got to do it, you got to do it. But just playing, now, little advice to the White House. Cut out the John Wayne stuff, cut out the high noon stuff, and let's get down and talk about this as the serious matter it is that involves tens of thousands of human lives. And let's make sure we do this properly and carefully and not just go blasting off with the end result being, after we ship all those wonderful people home dead and wounded, that we have destabilized the Middle East and for decades have become the most hated people in the Middle East. That's what this policy will take us to.
More of your calls for Ross Perot on Larry King Live right after this. Don't go away.
The average cost of this luxury car is $37,000. The average cost of the American home is $134,000. The average cost of a private college education is $45,891. Yet the cost to examine this magazine is nothing. Just call this number now and we'll send you Money Magazine to examine risk-free. If you like it, do nothing and we'll continue your subscription with articles on better ways to cut your taxes, how to look for a smart investment that delivers exceptional returns. Money will show you ways to improve your lifestyle, get more value from your home. We'll even outline 12 steps to financial security. So in a world where costs are high and so are risks, take advantage of Money's risk-free offer. Call this number now. We'll send you your first issue of Money Magazine to examine risk-free. If you find money is not for you, then just write cancel on the bill and send it back. The issue is yours to keep free. Otherwise, we'll continue your subscription with 12 more informative, entertaining issues for a total of 13, payable in 4 monthly installments of just $8.99 each. Your taxes average $4,800. A retirement plan costs $2,400 yearly. Yet these financial guides cost you nothing. Because if you call now, we'll also send your money's financial advisor free. It's a 3-part series that helps you manage your taxes, retire worry-free, invest and win. So why not call now and examine your first issue of Money risk-free? Plus, get the financial advisor free. And while the average American phone bill is $45.33, this phone call will cost you nothing. Call this number now and take advantage of Money's risk-free offer. It has the perfect ring to it.
I watched what I ate, worked out on my Easy Glider, and lost 75 pounds.
Some say it's the #1 fitness exercise. Just 20 minutes every other day firms all major muscle groups.
This is a tremendous workout.
Dual resistance allows you to adjust tension for both legs and upper body.
The bikes only work on certain parts of your body. Easy Glider works on all over.
And this handsome unit folds down quickly for easy storage.
Shape up and slim down with Easy Glider.
I guess the man who founded Electronic Data Systems, the little company that he started and sold to General Motors for $2.5 billion. Other than that, nothing much has happened. With H. Ross Perot, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hello.
Yes, hello, Mr. Perot.
How are you?
How are you?
Fine.
Listen, I've been listening to you and also the congressional debate, and I'm getting the distinct impression, well, with all the talk of plenty of time and diplomacy and letting sanctions work, that maybe we find that Kuwaiti lives are expendable. What about the Kuwaitis that risk their lives saving us there? Are they not worth going in to save?
The Kuwaitis that risk their lives doing what?
Offering sanctuary to the Americans and Europeans.
Well, certainly. We have a deep obligation and commitment to any Kuwaitis who helped our people. Let's go back a step, though. It would have been a lot smarter if our State Department had told everybody to get out, but they didn't. So I think we have an obligation to tell our State Department to shape up. But let's come back to your question. Certainly we have an obligation to the Kuwaitis, but we also have an obligation to our fighting forces not to use them as cannon fodder unless it's necessary.
How do you deal with their impatience, though? One would imagine that a troop may have heard your message before and said, hey, you know, I've been here for 6 months. There are better places than this. Let's get it on with.
No, to the men and women in the desert, I understand your frustration. I understand you're in a tough spot, not a good Liberty town nearby and all that. And I understand you'd like to get it over with and get out. And believe me, I wish we could. And believe me, if we had started some real open talk earlier, I think we could have, but we didn't. So let's put it behind us. And here's what I ask you as a person who loves every one of you. Suck it up and hang tough. We'll get you out of there as quick as we can. But the thing we all want to do, and this is all of us back here, we want you to all come home to a huge hero's welcome. And we want you to be marching in that parade. Marching in that parade. And I don't want to lose anybody unless we have to. And if we do, it ought to be carefully calculated and thought through and not done in a huff and a bluster.
How good are you at forecasting? What do you think is going to happen next week?
I think we'll get a vote from Congress. It's going to be probably the House will come up with a resolution that backs the president. The Senate is at a balance now. It's within 2 or 3 votes one way or the other. I don't know how that'll come out. I would say when the dust clears, something will come out of the Congress that gives the president the negotiating power he needs to keep going forward and the authorization to use force.
Then what?
That is major progress, Larry, because Congress has acted. This is the Constitution at work, and Congress is the people. Now we're cooking.
Now, will he do it?
Okay, hopefully, with all of that around him, we will start some other paths other than just blasting across tanks and pits and fields of oil fire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Hussein can come up with a hell of a counterattack. Never forget that. Now let's just keep our heads about us and let's just accept the fact that everybody in the country knows now that our government has done stupid things with Hussein for 10 years. And I pray nobody will want to make a big thing out of that. We all make mistakes. Now let's be rational, logical, and mature to button it up.
We'll be back with our remaining moments with H. Ross Perot on Larry King Live. Don't go away.
Sound quality is amazing.
It sounds so great.
No scratches at all.
That's when music was music.
It's got everything.
Ramblin' Man.
Benny and the Jets.
All on CDs.
Introducing Entertainment Weekly's Rock Archive CD Collection. It's free with a paid subscription to Entertainment Weekly.
Everybody's doing a brand dance now.
These drum licks are just thundering in here.
This exclusive Rock Archive collection has 30 of the most listened to hits from the 60s to today. Remastered and compiled for the first time on 2 beautifully produced CDs or 3 audio cassettes. And the Rock Archives will sound even better when you hear that it's free.
What?
Do I have to pay taxes on it?
It's free when you subscribe to the magazine everyone's talking about, Entertainment Weekly, at a savings of almost 50% off the cover price.
Entertainment Weekly is the postmodern farmer's almanac.
It's a great magazine.
Entertainment Weekly is like a quick fix on what's out there.
It's concise, it keeps me current.
I love the picture. Get kind of the behind-the-scenes look.
It cut to the chase. I want to talk about music and movies.
I like it because I don't have to be hip.
Entertainment Weekly's more than great reviews. It gives you the inside scoop and a behind-the-scenes look at movies, television, videos, books, and more. Call right now and get 18 issues for 3 monthly installments of only $5.99 each. Or use your credit card today.
Walk like I think that's really how people walk in Egypt.
Call right now, and you'll also get Entertainment Weekly's Rock Archives, 30 classic rock hits on 2 CDs or 3 audio cassettes, and it's free.
Things like this don't happen to me. It's stupendous. It's outrageous.
Totally awesome.
It's inexplicable. How could you beat that?
Wishing I was Rod Stewart waking up with Maggie May.
So call and subscribe today. You'll save almost 50% on Entertainment Weekly, and you'll also get the Rock Archive set free.
For a transcript of this or any edition of Larry King Live, send $5 to Larry King Live Transcripts. Journal Graphics Incorporated, 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 10007. To order by credit card, call 212-227-READ.
Our guest is H. Ross Perot, who in our closing moments wishes to quote Kipling. In what regard?
In regard to trying to hustle the Middle East. Kipling wrote a beautiful little poem on this. And it's been going on for centuries, and you can't hustle the Middle East. And we've been trying to hustle them. And the end...
Let me hold the poem, because I understand we've got a call coming through from Washington. Senator Robert Mosbacher, the Secretary of Commerce, Secretary Robert Mosbacher, is on the phone. Bob, are you there?
Yeah, I sure am. And I'd love to talk with you and Ross. How are you?
Okay, fine. We're running late in the show, but I'll carry it over a little. What do you wish to say to Ross?
Well, Ross is an old friend and an admirer of yours. I'm disappointed, Ross. You used to tell me you should never talk about something you don't know anything about. And compared to the president and all his military advisors and all those men and women in military who are over there defending our country and doing their best job, I can't believe that you think that you know better than they do in their collective wisdom as to what's good for this country and what's going to keep us out of war and keep us in peace for the post-Cold War era. And Ross, that's not like you, and I'm very disappointed as a guy who thinks that you did a lot of good things, you know a lot about computers, but you can't possibly know what's going on over there like the people who are ready to fight, and the president and the advisors from Colin Powell and all the other people around.
Mr. Secretary, Bob, can you give us one example of where he's wrong?
Yeah, I certainly can. The only way that Saddam Hussein will get out of Kuwait is being by totally convinced that the United States is totally united behind his president. And if we don't show that to Saddam Hussein, we are risking a bloody war. There could be many lives lost, and I cannot believe, really, that Ross, my old friend, would be for that. And I'm shocked.
All right, we have an honest difference of opinion, and it's a free society, and I believe I have the right to express
defend your right to express your opinion,
Well, let's
Ross.
talk about something you're responsible for.
I want to have that
One at a
same
time,
right.
guys. All right.
Now, you've had the floor. Let me make a question.
Hold on, Bob.
After August, Commerce Department, State Department bent over backward to send a supercomputer to an Iraqi front company in Brazil that was on the way to Iraq. Do you think that's in the national interest?
Ross, no more than when you agreed not to sell anything to compete with your former company that you tried to get in and sell things to the state of Texas. So let's not get into personal views like that. I'm talking about what's best for this country.
Wait a minute, Bob. Let's come to
this.
Can we stay on the issue?
I'm not going to attack you.
No, I'm not attacking anybody, but I've really wondered why we tried to ship them a supercomputer through a Brazilian Iraqi front company so they could continue nuclear research after we decided we want to take it out.
Did we do that for Iraq? Is that what you're saying?
We did.
Did we do that, Bob?
At an earlier time, we did a lot of things for Iraq. All of us
I'm talking
did,
about
because
after our
we were
troops were
fighting
there.
Iran. Do you remember when you were fighting Iran, Ross?
I remember when I had people who were hostages, sure. But now, Bob, you're running, ducking, and hiding. Why don't you just answer the question on the
I have
supercomputer?
never run, ducked, or hid, and you know better
Okay,
than that.
answer the question on the supercomputer. Why would we send them a supercomputer through an Iraqi front company in Brazil, and the State and Commerce Department moving heaven and earth to do it, after we had troops in the desert, and finally Defense and the CIA got it stopped?
We
That
were
was
sending
probably just an
things
honest
to
mistake.
Iraq
I'd
for
call it an
many
honest
years.
mistake.
I agree with you. You want to listen? Don't be always on send, be on receive once in a while. If you want to listen, let me tell you. We said a lot of things to Iraq in earlier times, and I don't have that 20/20 hindsight like you do, but I knew it wasn't even in my time there, that it was the wrong thing to do. At that time, we were worrying about Iran more than Iraq.
Bob, I'm talking
20/20
about after
hindsight,
August.
You're right. We should not
After
have 5
August.
years ago sent anything to Iraq.
Wait a minute,
But
you're
that
saying
is
we
not
sold
what
this-
I'm
we're
saying
talking about
after
tonight.
August of 1990, Bob.
No, that's wrong.
Okay, we have run plenty. I will tell you this, Bob, while we've got you on the phone, you want to give us a forecast? What do you think is going to happen in Congress tomorrow?
Well, I hope and pray that the Congress will have the good sense to back the president, because it's the last best hope for peace. And I pray that the Congress will view it that way, because if Saddam Hussein doesn't get a clear message from the President of the United States he's gotten, from the people of the United States he's gotten, and now he must get a clear message from Congress that he has to get out.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you,
Bob,
Ross.
you're a great guy.
Good night.
Good to hear from you, and you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
We'll have the Kipling poem next time because we're way out of time. Thanks for joining us. See you Monday with Senator Bob Kerrey. Good night.